Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. It's been a crazy week of BTS content. We knew there would be since this is a comeback, but what we weren't expecting was BTS going to the White House in the midst of all that, and we also didn't know when Festa would be happening. So there's been intermixing of content from the comeback and from Festa and from all the other announcements and things that are going on. So I don't know if that's ever happened before. I've never seen a time when Festa and a comeback were happening at the same time. So I'm doing my best to keep up with everything that's going on, and they are not letting up on us at all. So let's start with the breaking news. This was just announced. J-Hope is going to headline the Lollapalooza Music Festival in Chicago on July 31st. So it sounds like J-Hope, at least, is going to be flying back to the U.S., prior to the end of July in order to perform. And if you're not aware, Lollapalooza is a music festival that is usually held annually in the U.S. I don't know if it's always in the same place or not, but in the past, it's been a rock music festival. It started in 1991 by Perry Farrell of Jane's Addiction. If you know that band, it's very prominent 90s alternative rock type of band. And I think they did it to showcase, the alternative kinds of rock music, because that was very popular in the 90s. If you remember, like grunge and like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and stuff like that. Well, that was kind of the origin of this festival for Lollapalooza. And it was very popular in the 90s. And I think they kept it going, but now it seems to be just, all kinds of music can be performing at this festival. So I think this is a very unexpected announcement. I never thought we would see BTS at a festival, much less them performing as solo artists. I don't know if I've seen that happen before either. So that's some great news. I think that's great for J-Hope. I think he does deserve a spotlight. I mean, as do they all, at some point. And I think people will get to see what his talent is all about. Because I think, most of the general public in the U.S. knows BTS as a unit. They don't know too much about them performing individually or, what their talents are. So it does make me wonder if this has been structured around any other schedule that BTS might be having. If they built it around this for their tour that maybe is coming back, or just it lined up with what they were doing already as a group for BTS. So it'll be interesting to see what other pieces fall into place as we hear more about their schedule for later this year. And I also wanted to mention that Lollapalooza being such a big festival in the 90s, and you'd often see bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers or Smashing Pumpkins being the headliners. And so seeing J-Hope as a headliner, that's definitely unexpected. And I think that's a huge respect to him and also to Kpop. They've never had a Kpop artist or even anyone from Korea, I don't think, at this festival. So he's being a trailblazer right now. And it showed on the schedule that it's going to be a 1-hour set. So that seems to be like quite a long time for a member of BTS, because normally in a concert you'd see them do one song solo, and not all the members even have a lot of songs all together, like if you added them up together. But luckily J-Hope has Hope World, the whole mixtape that he can draw from, and I'm assuming that's what he's going to be performing, at least for part of his set. So it'll be music from Hope World and Chicken Noodle Soup and Blue Side, and probably some of his solo songs like Outro Ego, Just Dance, and I bet he's going to throw in some covers in there. And a lot of people are speculating he will be releasing new music by then, because since it's an hour set, he might want to put some new music in there, and that'll be the first time performing it live. So I think that would be a really good opportunity. And so we're all going to be paying attention to if that's going to happen, especially, all the J-Hope fans. So I think this is great. I think people will see J-Hope has a lot of all around talent. Like he's designated as a rapper of BTS, but he can rap, he can sing, he can dance, he has tons of charisma. So I think the people that are attending Lollapalooza and maybe see him perform for the first time, they might be pleasantly surprised. And the fact that J-Hope is performing solo, this opens up a whole new dimension of possibilities that I don't think fans were really thinking about until now, but maybe some of the others will take gigs in festivals performing solo, or take these different opportunities to perform, maybe on late night shows or things like that, or morning shows when they have their solo work come out. So that's a possibility too, and we'll see when that happens. Proof comeback content. So on May 27th, they started releasing concept photos, and the first set of them is called Concept Photos Proof. And we see that the group picture of them, they're posing in front of a large square metal door. To me, it looks like a bank vault door or maybe a walk-in freezer, but some very secure metal door. And they have all black outfits and a lot of jewelry, a lot of thick chains going on. And one thing that's very noticeable is that there's a lot of bullet holes on this door, and bullet casings all on the ground. So they're definitely keeping with the theme of them being bulletproof. And they're standing there unscathed, so they didn't get hurt. One thing I was wondering about is, did they actually shoot up a metal door to do that, or did they just kind of use a tool to screw in a bunch of holes on this door? Just wondering how that worked out in the prop department. But a lot of people had different impressions of these photos, and I think first of all, it definitely looks like a callback to their debut album. Those early songs like We Are Bulletproof Part 2 and No More Dream, just the very early songs when they had a similar look. They would wear all black and have chains. And this anthology album, they definitely want us to remember the previous albums. So it's almost like they're dressed like the grown version of Too Cool for School. And the individual photos, they are posing in front of a large circular metal, I would say it's a door, but some people are calling it a shield. So I'm not exactly sure what they meant for this large object to be, but it's a similar theme to the group photos. It looks like it has lots of bullet holes on it, and they're posing in front of it. They haven't been harmed. Some of the doors have more damage than others. I don't know if that's supposed to be relative to each person. Did some members get more attacks than others? Is that the metaphor here? But I think, people got a lot of impressions from this first set of photos. I guess you could say it's dark concept. I mean, they're wearing dark clothing, and then they're in shadows in the individual photos and looking very serious. To me, their outfits, they all look like they're members of the mafia, like they're assassins or something. Except for V, who kind of looks like, I saw someone commented, they said he's dressed like a commander of the Night's Watch, like Jon Snow, because he's got the fur. So I was like, oh, yeah, I can kind of see that too. But I really like the fashion here. It's very updated from their early album, but then kind of Louis Vuitton eyes. It's very high fashion, even though it's kind of the same idea. Like you see how RM's got the taller hair a little bit and the shaved sides, which is a lot like his early look. Although, not, it's kind of more toned down now. I think they went like over the top with it in their debut with the height of his hair and everything. And when they had him wear sunglasses during a performance. Did not agree with that, but, it was definitely memorable when you look back. And I'm like a little, well, I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised that they still went with guns and bullet kind of imagery, just with, things that are going on in the world. But I think they aren't going to be pressured by, it's like, they're not really promoting gun use or anything. It's just like, this is the theme that they're going with, and it's matching the theme of their early albums. So I don't think anyone can give a valid criticism for that. But, sometimes artists, they are, super sensitive to things like that. And it's like, oh, I'm never going to promote any images of violence or whatever. But I think we can all appreciate it's not like it's not like they're actually being shot at or anything. And so then on May 28th, they released another set of photos. These ones are all in close-up with these same outfits, and they're up against a wall that is white and has a grid on it. And each of them has a laser sight pointed at them. And it's either red or green, and I don't know. Some of the members have red light and some have green light, so I don't know if that has any significance about which members have what. It looks like the rap line has all the green, and then the vocal line has the red. Oh wait, not really. No, Jin has a green, so so that's not how they decided. It could be random, I don't know, but it's a very cool look. It's another way of showing how they've been the target of things, and they have the laser sight. It's like pointed right at their head or even right at their eye. So that's pretty powerful images for the second set of photos. And of course they all look amazing in their hair and everything and their styling. Very strong looks that they're giving here. And then following that, we had concept photos door versions, and these ones were very different than the proof versions. In door, it looks like they're in an all-white area, and they're all wearing kind of light-colored clothing, very pastel, and floaty fabrics, sheer fabric curtains, and they look very angelic, I would say, and I know it's overused, but ethereal. So these are a very different tone of photos. They look very peaceful and like they're at peace. So I think I like that part of it. Like they're at a time in their careers where they are comfortable with themselves and they don't feel that pressure of being targeted all the time anymore. So I think that's the message I get from the door version, is that they're very self-assured and they feel good about themselves, and no matter what happens, like they've all got each other and then they are at peace. The next day we got more door concept photos, and it's more of the same thing, just some like slightly more close-up photos in this white background with pastel outfits, and they don't have any targets on them or lasers or anything, so they look very calm. And then there was a final set of photos. I think technically they're still door photos, but actually they kind of look like a combo of door and proof, because they still have the door outfits, so all the light pastel outfits, but then they're all in a darkened room, and then they have the white light on their face, so like one narrow strip of light on them. So it's kind of a combination of both concepts, but I wonder, not totally clear what this means, that they're in a dark room and they've got the white light on them. This might be symbolism for that new chapter that they keep talking about, that maybe they're closing the door on one room and going into another room. But some very nice photos that they took. I think everybody enjoyed seeing them. They also released a concept photo short clip on June 4th, and that was kind of a brief video it just kind of went through some of the photos that they'd released in the last few days. So that gave you more of an idea of that. It wasn't a video, it was just like a slideshow that was a video. And then on June 6th, they released, this was marked as question mark on the comeback schedule, but it was the Proof Live poster. So it says there, wait, let me pull it up actually. Okay, so the Proof Live poster, it shows them all seated in a row, and this appears to be a set in Vegas in the desert that they've set up, and this is going to take place, I'm assuming it's a performance, it's going to take place on Monday, June 13th, and it'll be very early in the morning. It's 8 a.m. Eastern time, so I guess that's going to be 5 a.m. for me. I don't know if I'll be awake, but let me have to set an alarm, I guess. So it says Proof Live with special guest, and there's a lot of speculation about who that might be. Is it one person? Is it going to be more than one person? Is it someone that's on one of their songs, or are they just going to be there as like a host? Very mysterious. But in the poster, it shows them seated, and then behind them, there's a bunch of instruments. So I don't know if that has to do with what the guest is going to be, but, it's going to be people playing live instruments. And, a lot of people are speculating who the guest might be. I saw some people guessing that it's going to be Silk Sonic, and some people saying Pink Sweats, since he had met up with Jungkook at that Seoul Jazz Festival recently. I believe that's where that happened. And there's also Max, who's worked on this song, so I don't know, maybe he'll appear, and or some people are saying Snoop. I don't think that's very likely. I don't see Snoop going all the way. Well, I mean, it says Proof Live, but then this must have been taped already, so maybe some of this has been taped and some of it is going to be them speaking live about the album release. I'm not sure, because if this was filmed in Vegas, then the guest could be, a lot of different people, because if it's someone American, then all they had to do was film with them in Vegas that week. But, if it's someone going all the way to Korea, then I don't know how likely it would be someone who's American. But, I'm sure people, if we don't figure this out, we will just have to wait and see who that guest turns out to be. They also released the MV teaser on June 7th, and then June 8th, the shorts teasers for YouTube. So in the teaser, it's also in the desert set is what it looks like, that whatever they filmed in Vegas, and it shows the members just kind of standing around in all different places, and they seem to be wearing outfits from the different BTS eras. And I'm not, such a clothing expert that I identified all the different ones, but you could tell that they're meant to be different times. And I'm sure people online have identified all the different videos that those are from, but that also fits with this being an anthology and them putting, all different songs on their album, and each person represents a different era. And on the shorts teasers, it had, one look for each member. It was just very short. They just turned and made eye contact in that video. So I think we got a lot of good footage for the looks that they're going for, and the concept photos, and for the MV. So I think everyone's looking forward to when the MV is released and hearing what the new songs sound like on the album. On June 2nd, BTS announced on Weverse that they would be performing at Music Bank on June 17th, and provided information for those who want to participate by attending the taping. So there's reports that not only will they be performing at Music Bank, which is on KBS 2 channel, but they are also going to be performing Mnet's M Countdown and also SBS's Inkigayo. So this means that it'll be their first music show performances in about 2 years since March 2020. And I remember that because they performed on at all these different music shows and they had all the different outfits, you know, the white outfits that they had. So I do remember that. That feels like a long time ago, but they will be performing on these music shows Yet to Come, which is their comeback title song. So I don't know if they're going to be performing like more than one song, but at the very least, it's going to be their title song. And notably, they're not going to be performing at Music Core on the NBC channel. And most likely that's due to that conflict that HYBE has been having with NBC. Just because of that one time they couldn't perform at NBC Gayo because, you know, that was that year that they were going to do New Year's Rockin' Eve, I think, in New York. And so they couldn't perform at this music show, which was also on New Year's Eve. So I guess NBC is still mad about that. And HYBE hasn't appeared on their channel. Like none of the HYBE artists, not just BTS, they haven't been working with that channel since then. So I don't know. It seems like somebody should have reached out and fixed this issue because how are you going to be a channel that shows K-pop music shows and performances and things like that and not work with any of the HYBE artists all this time? Like, are they just going to let this go for years? Because that doesn't seem very smart on their part. But I think HYBE is just like, okay, well, whatever. We're going to perform at these 3 other shows anyway. So that's plenty of exposure. And I really like the fact that they're doing music shows this year because I think it's been long enough that it's like, oh yeah, that was so much fun to watch, you know, music show performances. And, you know, if you go on YouTube and look back, you can definitely fall down the rabbit hole watching all the different performances. And, you know, there's like so many fun ones like Go Go and Unpon Man and stuff like that. Like those are the ones that always pop up for me, but they're a lot of fun. And it's going to be a little bit different this time. I was seeing a report where one of the music shows are going to take place in an arena or a stadium, something that seats 4,000 people this time. And normally these music shows are only filmed within the studio of that channel, and it's not a gigantic venue or anything. It's like a stage and, you know, a studio audience. But I guess BTS, once again, they have to be doing something different, doing something special and over the top. So they're going to be doing at least one of those shows at a very large venue. And, you know, some very lucky ARMY will be able to attend that. So I think that'll be great. People will remember, you know, how much fun it was to watch music shows and have all of those performances available to view later on. It seems like a lot of work to try to get into these because you got to be there for the audience. There's a lot of rules that you have to follow and you got to be there really early, and it's very specific what they want you to do, and you're there all day. So imagine if the audience is there all day, then so are the artists. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why they decided to stop doing music shows for a little while, because there's so much time commitment for the artists. You're filming at least like 1 or 2 days because you've got to do the pre-recording on one day and then the taping is on another day, and it takes the entire day to do all of these setups and, you know, rehearsals, and then you're recording it. So it's a lot of effort for them, especially if you're BTS and you're kind of needed to be in many different places for each comeback. There's a lot of demands on your time. So I think that might have been one of the reasons why they stopped doing it before. It's just the time commitment. And I think the other issue was also who gets that footage, like, you know, those fan cams and then the performance footage. I think before it was very beneficial for those channels because they had the ownership of all that footage and like they could release it and get all those views. And I'm sure if HYBE is back performing at music shows, they must have worked out some kind of deal that's a little bit more beneficial for their artists. So otherwise they wouldn't do it. I don't think they would just go back and be like, okay, we're going back to this system where it's a disadvantage for us to put in so much effort and then not get access to the performance footage, or, you know, have less rights to it or less of a cut. I don't know how it works exactly, like how it's divided up. But yeah, I think that'll be really fun to watch that. And hopefully those videos get released pretty soon. Like, I don't think these air live since it's a taping. So we'll see once those are released. I'm sure we'll see them on YouTube. And if you follow those channels on Twitter, I'm sure those performances will be posted and you'll be notified about that. On May 30th, Jungkook shocked everybody by deleting all the pictures from his personal Instagram page. And a lot of people were watching this unfold, like they, were just looking at his profile right before, and then suddenly there's no pictures there. Or I actually saw one person had a screen recording of each time they refreshed, there was fewer photos on there. I was like, oh my God, that's scary to watch that happening in real time. It was pretty clear that Jungkook deleted everything, and people weren't sure why. About that time is when he was leaving for his trip to DC. Because remember, he left separate than the other members for going to DC. And so some people thought maybe he got really fed up with running into stalkers at the airport and decided, like, I'm going to have more privacy and not post as much to my Instagram page. And so some people were getting a little worried about his mental health. Like, is this taking a toll on him? And then maybe he decided, I'm going to be off social media for now. And then other people thought maybe this has nothing to do with that. And yes, he did run into some crazy people at the airport who were following him, but maybe it wasn't as big of a deal as we thought. And that the deleting of the pictures could be a sign that he's releasing a mixtape soon. Because the Western artists, they often do that when they're about to release a new album. They will wipe their Instagram because the new era is going to have a completely different color scheme and aesthetic than the previous era. So some people thought, well, maybe that's what's happening. And I personally don't like it when artists do that, because it's like, why do you have to delete everything? Can you just put some blank squares and then start the new era? Because I like to go back to look at all the old stuff sometimes. And yeah, I mean, I know it's out there somewhere on the internet. You can find, like Taylor Swift, her old Instagram post, that like every single thing she's deleted is recorded somewhere and saved somewhere on the internet. But it would be a lot more convenient if it was just still on their account and all you had to do is just scroll way back. So some people thought that was what was happening. But after BTS visited the White House, Jungkook began posting to his Instagram feed again. Only this time he started posting it in a new kind of layout so that it would be just a few pictures and then a lot of black squares around it. So it was very minimal, and like the style was a lot more Jungkook. So I think at that point it was clear that he had deleted all his photos because he wanted to set it up in a totally different layout. So it wasn't him having any kind of crisis or anything. It was just like, I just want to make it look more aesthetic. And he'd set up this second layout, and then later on he deleted that too and then started again. And so now at this current time, it is white on the sides, and he's got his photos all in the center of his feed. So if you go to his profile page, that's what it's going to look like. You just scroll down and you see all of the photos are in the center and white on the sides. So I think that's what he's finally settled on. And I think that's great if that's what makes him happy, is to have it look better. I know some people they want to have the feed look really good, and other people like don't care about what that looks like, because how often are you going to go to someone's profile? But it's up to the person whose Instagram account it is. And, some people don't care about how the feed looks. They just put up whatever individual pictures they want to, and that's fine too. But I'm just glad, like, whatever the issue was, it wasn't about Jungkook being upset. So I think everybody was relieved to find that out. And we also have to remember that BTS, they're still pretty new to Instagram. And so they, a lot of times when you start your Instagram, there's all these different trends going on. It's like, I'm going to have all my photos have the same filter, or I'm going to have mine all with, the Polaroid template, like J-Hope did at one point. So they didn't get to experience all those different trends. So they're kind of experimenting now. And I think it's definitely makes sense that Jungkook is doing that too and trying to have it exactly set up how he wants it. On June 1st, we finally got the announcement from BTS about Festa. And they published a poster that showed, the upcoming content that we're going to have. And they don't list any dates for this, but I think it's been a couple days, so as far as I've seen, it seems like something new has come out every day. The family pictures were released on June 2nd, and if you remember, BTS as a group, they take a whole bunch of photos for Festa, and the ones this year, they are wearing black and white outfits, so they've got black suits on, white shirts, black ties, and it's a very minimal environment. It's like all white background basically, and just some pieces of furniture that are in the photos. They've all got their black hair here, and they kind of look like office workers, I would say. So it reminds me of some of those other, army office themed things that they had last year. So they've taken new photos, and you've got J-Hope has a cute beret on. He's got to be the one who wears a hat, and so I think they went with kind of a minimal theme this time because it's an anthology coming up, and because I remember I think was it last year there was one that had a lot of pastel colors was in one of the photo shoots. But this one, it looks like they just decided to stick with a basic, black suit outfit and boots and white shirts. And they've all got black hair and posing in, it does look like an office environment. They've got a table and some chairs. And I think that's great because when you look back at the progression of the photos, you can definitely see their look has evolved. They look more mature. But yeah, I think these photos turned out really well. And so they've released the family portraits on the first day of Festa. And then on the June 3rd, they started releasing a lot of practice videos. So I'm assuming these have never been published before. They had, on the first day, they had one for No and We Are Bulletproof Part 2 and No More Dream. Later on in the week, they had a bunch more. I think that's maybe why they didn't put dates on it, is because they had some videos for multiple days. So they've got Danger, Butterfly, Am I Wrong, and, many other ones. I think they're up to 10 practice videos at this point. And it's really amazing to see some of their past choreo again and see how hard they practice, even though it's just a practice dance video that was never published. You could see how hard they're dancing and how precise they're being. So I think it's also nice to see some of the older songs performed again. And, and some of these songs are going to be on the anthology. So it'll help us remember those songs. And also on the Festa poster, BTS Selfie Collection 21-22, they released that on June 4th. And that was just, a ton of selfies from all the different places they've been in the past year, whether that's at performances or at concerts or other things that they've taped. They never fail to take a selfie as a group. And so these must be all the extra photos that they have that they didn't post already on Twitter or somewhere else. So it was really cool to see that. It's almost like someone's like vacation album. It's like, here's every place we've been this year. So a lot of fun photos to jog your memory of the year. So the only thing that's left on the Festa poster is Song for Army, but that has not been released yet. And it looks like, the time that they gather to talk about the year, that video where they all like eat or just get together for an hour and discuss, the anniversary as a group. So I think that's what that is. That hasn't been released yet either. So looking forward to that. And I think it's been a great Festa so far. It just felt like people weren't sure when it was happening because I think there's just so many other things going on. But I think it's also important to still celebrate that this is another year as a group and look back on everything they've accomplished. On May 26th, RM posted to his Instagram story a White House press release that stated BTS would be visiting the White House to speak with Joe Biden about stopping Asian hate crime. The press release says BTS to join President Biden at the White House to discuss anti-Asian hate crimes and celebrate AANHPI Heritage Month. They were scheduled to arrive on Tuesday, May 31st for this meeting. So this was a very surprising announcement. Nobody was expecting BTS to be coming back to America so soon, and not for this reason. Like we thought if they were going to come back, it would be for more concerts. So this was very surprising, but it is Asian month, so I guess that makes sense that if they were going to come, it would have to fit into May somewhere. And from what we know, it was the White House that reached out to have BTS come in. And I think that because BTS has spoken about this issue before, that they felt like it was important to attend this meeting and find the time to be able to speak out about it. And if you remember, 2021, they had released a statement and they talked about recalling moments when they faced discrimination as Asians, that they endured expletives without reason and were mocked for the way they look. And they were asked why Asians spoke in English. And they are able to use their experiences to talk about this issue. And I think they feel that this is important, that they're such prominent figures that they stand against racial discrimination, make that known. They're definitely against violence, and they want to be a voice for that. And I'm always the person who says, like, let's not be political, because when artists get political, that just causes a lot of division, and people will criticize them and they may not agree with the things they're saying. But I think BTS is one of the better groups at trying to keep it on an awareness level and not necessarily specifics. Like when you start saying, here's exactly how we're going to do this, then you have people that can criticize that, because, you know, one side of the government is going to want to do things one way, the other side's want to do it the other way, and then you don't want to be, BTS are entertainers, so they don't want to be advocating anything super specific. Just they want to keep it on an awareness level and use their platform to speak out about that. So yeah, that was my uncertainty, is that because America is so polarized, even though BTS is coming there with the intention to talk about something that should be pretty nonpartisan, people are going to just pick their side and send them some negative comments about that. And it's kind of a similar thing to when like Kanye West was there visiting the White House to talk to President Trump one time about criminal justice reform. And, you know, I'm sure people on both sides agree that that's a necessary thing, and however you define it. But when Kanye West shows up there to talk to Donald Trump, then everybody's who's anti-Trump is gonna attack Kanye West. So I was kind of afraid something like that might happen, but I didn't see too much negativity as far as that. And I think that BTS was able to stick to their same message that they've had before. And it's just about respecting others and loving yourself and speaking out against violence. I think that's an important thing. There were a couple people out there that really had an issue with the fact that BTS was coming to speak about these issues and that they're Korean and not Korean American or Asian American. And so that criticism I just really didn't understand, because you don't have to be this exact label to talk about an issue and to raise awareness of it. It was like for example, when people were talking about trying to raise awareness about like AIDS in the 80s, that was something that wasn't that well known amongst the public. And so celebrities started speaking about that more and saying like, there's a crisis going on with AIDS and here's what you need to know about it. It's like, okay, those celebrities didn't have AIDS themselves. They didn't, experience anything related to that. They just heard about it and then they were using their platform to talk about it. So I don't understand why, you have to be Asian American in order to talk about things Asian Americans go through. And it's like, okay, BTS is Asian. They're facing similar things all over the world and they've traveled here as well. So I think they have plenty of experience to draw from when you're talking about anything that Asians deal with around the world. And there was this one journalist on Twitter that I saw who was really angry about this. I don't know what her issue was, but she was trying to say that, okay, bring up the same thing about they're Koreans, they're not Asian Americans, so they shouldn't be speaking on anti-Asian hate in America. She brought up that terrible argument. And then she also said that ARMY is like responsible for a bunch of hate and xenophobia themselves. So she was even trying to call out ARMY for being like hateful as a fandom. It's like, are you serious? Like, how are you that angry about BTS coming to the White House to raise awareness on this issue? I just thought, like, why do people spend so much energy being anti-BTS? And why are people so obsessed with the exact right person speaking on an issue? Like, who cares who's speaking on it? If it's the right thing to do, then everybody should be speaking on it, or many people, What happened to having allies, and what happened to building consensus and everybody having a voice? Because as you know, BTS says, speak yourself. And so if you want to talk about a problem, you should be able to and not face all this like ridiculous criticism. So I don't know what this one lady's problem was, but she seemed pretty angry about it and seems to hate ARMY. But nothing she can do about it, because they came and they spoke. And I think everybody was open to hearing what BTS had to say. And I know they're not there to like actually solve the problem. Like appearances like this, when it's a celebrity that comes to speak at the White House to talk about an issue, they're not there to say like, here's exactly what we need to do. It's just an awareness thing, and to show that, that administration cares about it, and, whether they do anything to fix that problem, that's on them, whatever you think about the person that's president at the moment. So I didn't see too much negativity, but there were just a couple examples that I saw, and it's like, wow, what is your problem? And, some of it was also fans of other K-pop groups. Like, I think they were criticizing, but it was like a disingenuous reason, like, oh, why is it BTS and why not this other group that has like more of a basis in America and has more English speakers and therefore is better to speak on this issue? It's like, okay, well, we get it. You're jealous. That's the only thing. And if that's your real criticism, because I think everybody should be applauding BTS for trying to help solve the problems out there and not being nitpicky about like, well, no, this K-pop group should have gone instead. It's like, well, this is who the White House invited. So that's who they felt like was representing on this issue. Yeah, there was even a Twitter account I saw called Populism Updates, and they had a meme that showed, it showed all of them standing there at the press room, BTS standing there, and the caption on that was, BTS have taken over the country. And then you'd think, oh, well, some of the comments, some of the replies, they're going to be like, who's BTS? Or, allude to the country being badly run by them or something, negative things. But if you look at the quote tweets and the replies, it was almost all positive comments. So I think everybody appreciates BTS and the fact that they're role models and then they're very responsible people. And yeah, I just think I was pleasantly surprised that I saw a lot of positive comments about that meme, because it's very easy for people to just like go off on memes and then like have a lot of insults and stuff like that. So I think just overall that tells me the reaction to BTS coming to the White House was very positive. And I was following this live because they were planning on live streaming some of it, not all of it. I mean, I really feel like it should have been 100% all live streamed, like everything, every moment when they were there in the White House. But, I guess the White House people decided otherwise. Their meeting with Joe Biden was not live streamed. And, I'm sure they wanted to tape it and then be able to edit it however they wanted. And so we did see a 5-minute video, I believe it was, a few days later on that meeting. But BTS did appear at the press briefing, which was right before that meeting with the president. And so they did walk in. They had some introductory comments about, basically they said like, here's why we're here. And I thought it was so crazy to see that they were in that White House briefing room, and it was like filled with reporters this time. Normally it's not too well attended anymore. It's just like, okay, one person from this channel and someone from another channel, and it's lots of empty seats typically. But yeah, it was a full room, and they were only in there for a few minutes, and they just kind of made an appearance. And I think they kind of did that because they knew, the rest of their time there wasn't going to be live streamed. So it's like, well, let's give people something to see and have them pop into the press briefing. So I think we got something at least. And people some of ARMY was happy that the chat on the press briefing live stream was turned off, because they were afraid there might be some negative comments or some silly comments, like the Yoongi marry me type of stuff. But, the chat was turned off, but the White House chat has been turned off since the beginning. So I guess they, in general, don't want to see negative comments, which I think is kind of unfair, because a government body or anyone who's elected, I don't think they should be allowed to turn off comments, because it's like, how are we going to give you feedback? Like, you should be open to all that, whether it's positive or negative. So I don't like that's just their standard now, because I've never seen an administration have like so many comments turned off on their official social media or their YouTube channels and stuff like that. Yeah, it wasn't done for BTS's benefit. It's been like that since like a month in, I think. The briefing, it was supposed to take place at 2:30 Eastern, and it started a little bit late. It was like 10 minutes late. Sure, there's a lot of logistics to deal with, but we saw BTS enter with the press secretary, and she introduced them, and there was no sound at first, so I hope somebody got in trouble for that, because there was no sound at the beginning. That was very annoying. I was like, oh my god, are we gonna not even hear them because the sound's not working? But they got it working shortly thereafter, and BTS was wearing black suits, black ties. They all looked very very stylish and very businesslike. I think it's similar to their UN outfits, just black, nothing crazy. They couple of them had a white pocket square. So I thought they did well, dressing appropriately. Each of them spoke at the press briefing, talking about why they're there. They all spoke in Korean except for RM, and the interpreter had translated everyone else. And it's kind of funny because I think we all recognize the voice of the interpreter now, because it's the same person who's at the concerts when they do their ending ments. It's the same voice. So I have no idea what that guy looks like, but I can hear his voice. So they talked very briefly, and then at the very end, someone tried to yell out a question, but the press secretary said they were not taking questions. And I think Hybe would have been okay probably with them taking questions, because we've seen at BTS press events, they're more than capable of answering questions, even from like hostile people, like reporters that are trying to ask a, dumb question or a disingenuous question. So, I mean, the members are more than capable of handling stuff like that. So, but I'm sure that the White House was just like, no, that we don't want anything off script happening. So let's not have them answer any questions, because who knows what they're going to ask these reporters, even though I'm sure most of them are friendly to BTS. And like, why would you ask a negative question anyway to a guest? So they didn't take any questions, and so we just saw them very briefly at the press briefing. And the video of the meeting with President Biden, I think there was like a very short video posted on the White House social media, and a longer video that's about 5 minutes of, what things that they talked about. So I think they kept it very high level, bringing attention to the issues and then talking about their experiences as well. So I really appreciate the way BTS talked about it and the way that they're trying to stay neutral on it. You don't want to pick sides politically. Like, for example, I just saw that Matthew McConaughey was at the press briefing just recently, and he's talking about, well, here's what we should do as far as the gun violence. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that is clearly you're taking a political stance on something. And I think BTS just does a really great job of trying to be neutral and not make themselves a target for anybody who, there's a lot of people that are critics of the current administration, just with how the country's going right now, just with inflation and gas prices and, the supply chain issues, and there's not enough baby formula. There's like all kinds of issues going on. So it's very easy for someone to say, BTS, you're standing with Joe Biden, and since I don't like what he's doing with the country, I don't like what you're saying either. So I think since they didn't get into any specifics like that, it doesn't come across like they're telling us what to do here in America, how to solve these problems. They're just kind of trying to help the issue, try to like raise more voices to it, and solutions, if there are any, that's going to be up to us in America to sort that out. But I think you also have to look at the fact that the White House invited BTS to this, and it's like they realize what their popularity is right now, and I'm sure the administration is hoping that, like, we invited BTS, this incredibly popular Korean band, and I'm hoping that you lump us together and we can get some of that positive press as well. So, I mean, you have to look at everything as clout chasing, because a lot of times it is. And so whatever opinions you have of the current leadership, I wouldn't change that just because they invited BTS. Like, don't let that rub off. You definitely want to keep pressure on our leaders to make things better, and don't let up on any criticism. But I do think it's important that everybody uses their voice, and I think we can all appreciate that BTS uses their voice as well. And I think they've used it very effectively, and they're speaking on issues that are relevant to them that they would know about. So I think the way they handled this visit was very smart, and it was very professional. And we know they have a lot of experience already meeting world leaders, since they've met with the president of Korea before, and most likely they've met some other leaders as well. But I think this definitely helps their standing. The fact that they represent Korea, they represent young people, they represent a lot of things. So I think this helps with their stature. So yeah, I'm always going to be the one to caution them against doing anything that might be seen as too political. I think it can be very polarizing. I don't think BTS sees this as a political issue. I think they see it as they have a responsibility to speak about issues facing Asians, and it kind of falls in line with their past UN speeches and anything they've said as a group about discrimination. I'm sure they're aware that the current administration is unpopular, and that people have a lot of grievances as far as the prices of things and shortages. I bring that up just to say BTS is putting themselves in the line of fire almost by meeting with the president, because people might say, well, you're meeting with him, you're kind of endorsing how he's running things. And I don't think they're here to say that. They're just here to talk about the one issue that they came to talk about. So I think they showed a lot of courage by showing up. They didn't look very nervous to be there, so I'm glad that they felt relaxed and they were smiling and laughing at times. So I think it was great to see how at ease they were in a place that could seem really intimidating. So BTS took the opportunity while they were in America for a few days to do some other leisure activities while they were here. And so we got some fun footage of the members doing some different things. This posted to their Instagram stories or posts. V and Jin went to an indoor skydiving place. So that looked like really fun. It looked kind of dangerous, kind of crazy. So I was like, oh my God, they're just like flying around in this tube that has like, a lot of wind to simulate the skydiving. So that looked like a lot of fun. V also went to Topgolf. He posted about it. And later we find out that he was there with some of the other members too. Jin, Jimin, and J-Hope were there with him. And then we saw that BTS members ate at a seafood restaurant, and RM also went off on his own. He went to Boston sightseeing and to an art museum, and there were some posts about, a lot of this is from J-Hope's feed, so that's my source on this. But J-Hope, Jimin, and Jungkook hung out with her, the singer, at an arcade, and they had played basketball games and boxing. And the reason she's in DC is because Coldplay is performing in DC that week, and she's the opening act for Coldplay. So we saw them, these couple members, with her at an arcade, and Jimin was shown next to a very tall beer glass, which is really funny. And I think a lot of people were glad to see Jimin in J-Hope's Instagram, because we hadn't heard from Jimin in a little bit. He hasn't been posting, which is totally up to him if he wants to do that. But everyone was happy to see Jimin looking happy, having a good time. So I think that was great. And the whole group also had dinner at a very nice restaurant on May 31st. And it looked like somebody, maybe J-Hope, ordered what looked like a baked Alaska, which was like the ice cream dessert, which gets lit on fire. So really good. And I'm sure it was a delicious meal. I saw on Twitter that people said that this restaurant is called RPM Italian, and it's in DC. It's a very fancy restaurant. And other people reported, just from like the very brief footage we saw, that Chris Martin, Dakota Johnson, and her were also at this dinner. So that's nice that they are meeting up with their fellow musician friends, and that they are still in contact with Coldplay. And well, maybe not all of Coldplay was there. I think just Chris Martin was seen. But I think that's great that they've kept up that friendship. And they all headed back to Korea on June 1st. And V had taken a separate flight, it sounds like, so that he would be able to attend a movie premiere that his friend was going to be in, as well as IU, like whatever that movie is. He went to the Korean premiere, and so he had a very full week. He, going to the White House and then flying back and then attending a movie premiere. So he's a busy guy. And it was that same friend that he met up with in Vegas that one time, who's an actor. So that was the movie that he's in, I guess. And he's like, must have invited V to the premiere. So I think that was pretty cool because I've never seen BTS members attend a movie premiere. I would have heard about that, I think. But, I guess they have the discretion to do that if they want to, but maybe they're usually too busy. So that was cool that V found the time to do that. And also on June 1st, Jimin had posted to Weverse. He had a long note about he hadn't been posting lately. He just wanted everyone to know he's doing fine. And he was talking about his inexperience speaking at the White House. But I think everybody felt like he did totally fine. I think they all did well. I think he just posted a long note just to say, everything's going fine. I know I haven't posted lately and I want to visit Weverse some more and talk to Army. So it was good to hear from him. So yeah, it's been a very full week for BTS and tons of content for us. Hopefully I can continue to keep up with it, and looking forward to Proof being released and listening to the new songs and watching the MV. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. If you've listened all the way to the end of the episode, thank you for being a true fan of the podcast. And in honor of BTS traveling to the White House, comment with a talking head speaking emoji on our latest Instagram post. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.